Hello, hello. Welcome back to Let's Talk Ray Bradbury, the show here on Let's Talk Entertainment, where since 2018 I've been trying to locate and read and review each of the roughly 600 short stories written by Ray Bradbury. At this point, we've done, over 225, I think. But today we're moving on to The House from 1947, which is to be found in the story collection The Cat's Pajamas from 2004, which was one of the latter day collections. However, this story was written way back in 1947. The way that these reviews work is I do a brief synopsis of what happens in the story, all the action, all the plot and character, and then sort of wrap up my thoughts and feelings about what it all means. Is it a decent Ray Bradbury story? And I basically do this for my own pleasure, but occasionally some of you do find these reviews to be helpful to you, and that is cool too. All right, so in The House, newlyweds Bill and Maggie move into a house. It is a big old crazy-looking house, it's described as, on Bunker Hill, built in 1899 by a lawyer. Maggie comes from money. Bill does not come from money at all. He is an out-of-work poor writer, whereas her bags that they carry to the doorstep were bought at Saks Fifth Avenue. Bill sees potential for what the house can be, but his wife sort of is described immediately as being sick, which I think is sort of a sign of depression. She is not at all happy with the situation. She does not see the potential of the house, and she does sort of... she loves Bill, but she's sort of regretting that this is where their life has led them, as opposed to sipping martinis by the pool where she came from. Bill, trying to cheer her up, shares an anecdote from his time growing up with his grandmother. In her house, there was a stained glass window which he used to look through, and he would sort of see the world in different colors. And there was a stained glass window in this house, and sort of Maggie looks through it, and in one pane it looks bright and sunny, but in another pane it looks to be very sickly and bad, and everything sort of the perspective of the world is horrible. And this anecdote that he shares is actually to be found in a later story, 1954's The Strawberry Window, where a boy does the exact same thing. So I'm thinking this is probably an event from Bradbury's real life. Hurt by Maggie's sadness about their situation, Bill calls the realtor and asks, maybe, could I sell this house possibly after doing a little bit of work on it for a profit and sort of move out? This isn't going to work out. And the realtor says yes. Shortly after, one of Bill's friends, a woman named Bess, comes over, and she's very cheerful, and she sees potential in the house, and she offers to buy it, and they immediately begin cleaning it up, Bill and Bess. And moping around in her room, Maggie begins to think, and she feels a little bit of jealousy, and she sort of wonders how can they be so happy, and she comes to this realization that Bill loves her, and Bill, who has never worked a hard day in his life, not a laboring day in his life because he's a writer, not a physical laborer, but he's willing to do all this for her out of love because his happiness is in finding happiness for her, giving her a home, a place that she can love and enjoy and feel safe in. And so she comes to the realization that if Bill's willing to do this work for me, I, who came from money and who has also never done a hard day's labor in my life, should be willing to do just as much work for him to sort of make our love work, make our marriage work. And then that sort of brings the story to a close. She's willing to work for him, and Bill notices that she's come out of her room and she's beginning to clean as well, and she's been cleaning for the last 30 minutes before he notices her. All right, so it's a heartwarming story. I'd say that it's at least a little bit autobiographical, Ray Bradbury being the poor young writer who married young, and I've heard some stories about their life, and I think and he does this a lot. He tends to have a lot of biographical elements in his stories. The story is at its heart about love and marriage, new marriage, and partners needing to be able to, or willing to put in work to make their marriage work. Love takes effort. I think that is sort of the lesson here. And this is a message that is relevant as much today as it was in 1947 when the story was written. From the male perspective, which is my perspective, I think most guys are sort of genetically or socially hardwired to, we feel a need to be able to provide and to create stability and feel like we are worthy of the person we are in love with. And these days, here in 2024, I think a lot of people feel like society has made it harder to do that. I don't think this is a new phenomenon. I think men across time have always sort of struggled with this. But it's more visible, I think, today than it has been in recent generations, just sort of the way the economy works and the way things are becoming more and more lopsided. And then you bring into that the element of, women's equality has reached levels unheard of, and that's a good thing. But in this process, I think a lot of men, where women have been fought for this new path for them, these new opportunities for themselves, men have not necessarily been offered a new alternative, not all men. So we sort of are still hardwired with these old instincts, and it's become harder and harder to sort of fulfill those needs in ourself, which is to be able to provide for people. And I think anybody who's entered into a relationship and sort of it's gotten serious and they sort of wonder, can I do this? And I think it's a very, very real concern among people. And I'm trying not to sound sexist here because it's not the way I intend it. But I think most men and most women have certain needs, and sort of these things have all been turned on their head out of changes in society, also necessity created by change in society. So it's become very confused, and I think a lot of men are struggling with that right now, as well as women too. But this story is very much not a one-sided thing like that. It's more about he's working for her love, and she comes to the conclusion that, yes, I have to work for his love as well. So it's very much a mutual story. But I think for me personally, being a guy who has struggled with relationship, I can understand it from the perspective of, imagine that I'm Bill, have what little money I have, move into this old beat up house, and I want to be able to improve it and give my loved one a better life and to earn her love, and you find it struggling to be able to do that and having enough time to do that before it hurts her too much, that the relationship becomes irreparable. So there you have it. Unfulfilled men are dangerous. Just remember that. So the only negative in this story, I would say, is that the way it ends, Maggie sort of immediately comes to this realization about what is going on, this whole idea of working for love, and she sort of lays it all out in a very succinct and quick internal monologue, and it just feels a little abrupt. I think if anything could be done about this story differently would be to sort of lay that a little bit more slowly, a little bit more shown through her actions, other than just that one scene of her beginning to clean. I think you could do a little bit more of that. Otherwise, it does sound a little bit preachy the way it ends, but otherwise, a very good story. I like it. Strong message, a lot to think about. And that is it. What do you guys think? Have you read the story? Tell me what you think below. Next time, we'll be looking at the John Wilkes Booth Warner Brothers MGM NBC funeral train. That is a mouthful. I'm wondering how I'm going to fit that one on the thumbnail. But that review is coming up in a few days, so until next time, hope you enjoy another good story. See you later.